Go ahead and start. How are you doing? Welcome, everyone. Not sure who's participating virtually, but we're going to try and make sure that you can hear me. If you are virtual, can you hear me?
Yes,
And is there no one virtual?
there's 9 of us.
No one wants to comment? Well,
You
hopefully you
can't
can
hear-
hear me. I'm wearing these earbuds so that you can hear me. And if you ask a question, I will try and repeat it for the people in person. So we're still working our way through these hybrid meetings. Remember, I'm the least technical person that you know, as I have a pad and I don't know how to use the internet. I would not know what PDF meant if that had to kill me. But that's what Arturo is for. He prints out those emails for me. So I just want to cover a couple of topics today and then just kind of figure out what you might want to talk about. First of all, I want to thank those of you that participated in the book signing for Dr. Laura Murillo. I thought it was fantastic or whatever. She sent flowers and a little thank you card here, which is one of the things that we're going to talk about. The purpose of these things, I think you have to realize, is really what one of the major topics we're talking about. You have to find a way to brand yourself. You have to find a way to differentiate yourself. The only thing that really matters in your career in real estate is the relationship that you're forming with people, okay? Study after study after study continues to show, look, Amanda, it doesn't matter who you really work for. Compass, Zillow, Redfin, Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams, you know what your friends care about? You. They just care about you. Now, it's important for you to have the right relationship with a broker. And are you getting from your broker what you want? But the consumer, the person listing a house, the person buying a house, could really care less who you work for. Okay? They really don't. It's too confusing. They don't understand Compass, Zillow, Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams. They don't know who you work for. And I would love it if everyone knew that you really work for Boulevard Realty, but I'm a realist because I can read the message just as much as anyone else. Nobody really knows, nor do they really care. What they care about, Amanda, is you being their friend, the relationship that you're having with them. What are you doing to build your relationship and your business? The consumer cares about the agent, okay? So the agent has to do what they can to differentiate themselves. I'll do what I can to help differentiate Boulevard Realty, but I'm telling you, if I went to work for Keller Williams tomorrow, every one of my clients would go with me, okay? No one would care if I was at Boulevard Realty or Keller Williams. They wouldn't care. You know what they care about? Me, my relationship with them, my knowledge and my ability. So I want to help you build your relationships. That's really the number one thing that I can do. I do want to help you as the broker, but I'm just telling you, you've got to do your part. And one of those parts is to forge more and stronger relationships with your friends and your sphere. And the way you're going to do that is to stay in contact with those people for any particular number of reasons. You have no idea when you send out some sort of invitation that their brother has decided to move back to Houston after being a doctor in Toronto. And because you sent them an invitation to hear Dr. Laura Murillo, they didn't care about Dr. Murillo. What they cared about was you reaching out to them, okay? Hear what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. I need for you to try and differentiate yourself. When there are 42,000 realtors, the way to grow your business is to stay in contact with consumers, buyers and sellers. And you don't really know who those buyers and sellers are. So these sort of deals, I don't know Chip Wells. I don't know him. He must know me because I invited him, but I don't even know who this person is. But Chip Wells came, had a great time, and took the time to write me this wonderful little message about, so pleased they could attend. Well, good to see you, and it was nice to visit with you and all of your other guests. I don't know Chip Wells, but you know what I wanted to do? Find the Chip Wells of the world, invite them to something, get them into our office, and get them some experience they couldn't get from some other real estate agent. That's the purpose of these events. So making sure that you're sending out these invitations, even if you can't come, it's okay. This is the kind of branding that I think is setting ourselves apart. Same with the Top Chef thing. I think Tiffany went. Tiffany brought someone. Did your person have a great experience? these things you can't replicate, these experiences. They couldn't get them anywhere else or whatever. And so I want to continue saying, I get today in the mail Lauren Alf's invitation to her client appreciation dinner. You know what this is? It makes people feel special that you're getting invited to something, even if they can't attend. Okay, it's the outreach that's important. I go back to even the redesign things. We've been doing a more consistent job recently. As someone with 23 years experience, I have sold 7,000 clients. I have had more outreach from these redesign blog things that I send out on Wednesday than I have any other single thing I've ever done in real estate. Yes, Lauren? I go to the Annie's luncheon and 15 people come up and talk to me and say, I'm a maximalist and a minimalist. You know what I like? Outdoor furniture. I love the furniture that you should. They reach out. Marty Stein from the Planning Commission reaches out and talks to me about it. Everywhere I go, people that I didn't even know were getting these emails come up and talk to me about the topic that we're giving that week. Dozens of people a week are outreaching to me from me just reposting that redesign blog. And you know what I'm doing? Staying top of mind in their mindset that I'm in real estate, and we do more than just find houses. We talk about styles, and we talk about plants, and we talk about other things. I think this is just a way, if you're not reformatting that and sending that back out, you are not taking advantage of the full things that Boulevard Realty are offering. I get Jenny's. Now, you don't have to add me to your list, but I at least know she's sending it back out because I get hers, okay? That tells me that she's reformatting it and sending it from herself to her sphere, which I think is, if you're not doing that, let us help you do that. And if you're not adding 5 or 10 people a week to this sphere, if you're not focusing on your sphere, then I think you're going to find yourself obsolete in real estate. I mean, I really think, I don't care how good you are. I don't care how much experience you have. I don't care who you work for. If you're not staying top of mind with people today who are inundated right and left, my 2,700 Morrison tract of land gets at least 10 letters from real estate agents trying to rebuy or resell my property. If you're probably getting Arturo gets them, he brings them to me. Hi, and they're just fake little handwritten notes from some Keller Williams agent. Hi, have you thought about selling your house? I'm an expert in your neighborhood. I'd love to visit with you about now is the right time to sell your house. They're mailing out these cards. They're mailing out these letters. They're emailing people. They're finding you. Like my thrill kill deal, we ended up leasing it instead of selling it, so you have to terminate it from the sale, which means 900 people contacted my thrill kill sellers or whatever about if you ever think about selling in the future. I mean, and they're wondering he's at Goldman Sachs. He's a multimillionaire. He is very private. He doesn't want anyone contacting him. He wonders, how the hell do these people find him? I don't know how they find them, but they find them. I mean, they definitely find them. And if they're finding them that way, they're finding them through so many other outreaches. So it goes back to the importance of branding, the importance. Martha sent us a great email about vision boards and goal setting, which we're going to set up, because she mentioned a number of you are very much in favor of that. And we're going to bring this woman in, and we're going to do that same thing. But I will tell you, you do not need 14 goals. I have a lot of goals. I'd like to lose a little weight. I'd like to drink a little less. I'd like to spend more time with my kids. I'd like to enjoy the sunshine. I'd like to do all that. But you know what I can't do? All those things. But what I can do, and I hate this little Keller Williams guy or whatever, but I mean, you can do one thing. And that's really, instead of 14 goals for the rest of this year, find one goal. And this one goal really needs to be personal outreach to your sphere and adding to your sphere. Add one person a day. Don't even make it overwhelming. If you added one person a day between now and the end of year, and you kept in contact with this one person a year, I am telling you, you will have a very successful 2022. That's about as simplified as you have to get. If you're not adding to your sphere, if you're not sending things out to your sphere, if you're not thinking about a way right now to send a message of gratitude to the people that have helped make this year or your previous year, you are missing out on an opportunity, because you know what they're going to get? A letter of gratitude from your competition. Think now. You don't need to give everyone a bunch of closing gifts. You know what you need to give them? A letter of gratitude of how important they have been in your life in such a strange, and you know what they want? A little personalized note. They don't need a typewritten deal. They just want a personalized little note. You can send it via email, but I'm telling you, spending, I don't know the cost of a stamp today, probably 50 cents or something, right? I don't have any idea. How much is a stamp? I'm telling you, I was visiting with my neighbor at the lake house yesterday, and she was writing a little thank you note, and she had gone to the store, and there were these amazing little, all these different Texas stamps of a boot and a flag and a whatever. She was so proud of all these different stamps, which I think is just a creative way of being unique and doing something nice, something. Write thank you notes, write random thank you notes, add people to your sphere. I'm telling you, in a very complicated world, those little acts of kindness are going to make all the difference in the world. Be thinking right now of a plan. Drop a little pumpkin. Go buy 200 little bitty pumpkins over there at the dollar store and drop off a little pumpkin and leave it and give it to people. Take it to your hairdresser and your nail salon and your massage therapist and your yard guy and anywhere that you go. And I think they'll people want to do business with people that they have a relationship with. That's the only people they really want to do business with today. So the importance of just recognizing this sort of branding for yourself and taking advantage of these little outreach opportunities, I'm telling you, is extremely, extremely important or whatever. And let us help you. But when I during the middle of the pandemic, we bought all those little note cards. If you haven't been to Noted over there on 19th Street, go to Noted, shop local or whatever. Let them know that you're a real estate agent who's using their goods. We've made total outreach. I don't know those people. Like I said, I'm in real estate. I want to support your local business. I spent $500 for about 3 weeks in a row supporting that little deal and making sure they knew that this was Boulevard Realty agents who were buying these things to send out these cards to support someone local. I think you've got to continue to remind people that this is, you have a choice. You're a consumer also. And if you're going to do business with people, and like I said, I just had a friend that's choosing not to use me as a real estate agent. That's fine, except we do business together. And you know what I'm not going to do? Any more business with them. Because you know what? I'm going to do business with people who are going to use Boulevard Realty and Boulevard Realty agents. That's how we make a living. And if they choose not to use us, then I'm going to choose not to use them. It works both ways. I want to eat in a restaurant. These people bought and sold their house from us down below here. Coltavari and Morgan Weber's listed his house with me again today. We've sold all their houses. Lance Fagan from Fagan's, we sold his house. I mean, we eat at these places where people understand we can't eat over there if they don't buy and sell their house from us. I choose to do business with people who choose to do business with us. And you need to make the same sort of conscious decisions about who it is that you're doing business with. And then same thing, add a few people to your sphere. One a day is not that hard. Cultivating a good sphere list is extremely important. Any sort of questions or comments about that? Okay. Next, I want to pull up your ethics stuff here, Thomas. This is, if you should be getting tons of reminders, but I mean, I don't want you to get caught here. There's these cycles now, and you must participate in this 2.5-hour class of ethics. And if you don't do this before December 31st, if you haven't done it in the last 2.5 years or whatever, they're going to kick you off. You're not going to be a realtor, and you're not going to be on har.com. You're not going to have a real estate license. So it's very easy to check your status. HAR sends you a notice about this all the time. It's right on har.com. I mean, but you should probably even be getting emails about it. The course, you can log on, and you have 30 days to complete it. And there are 5-minute courses and 10-minute courses and 15-minute courses. Just do 5 or 10 minutes, log off and enter it, start back the next day or whatever. But don't get caught here for something that's relatively easy to do. Just want you to have a reminder about it.
And you can go to the NAR site to
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they've got it all. It's all organized on acr.com. If you don't get the if you don't get the.
Rita was saying if they haven't already, and I think they may have. Let's check out one. Maybe you start sending text messages in my car.
Yeah, and I get emails or whatever.
No, they spam it. That's Israel stuff.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about this ethics. We'll talk more about it later, whatever. I just want to remind you to do that. Okay,
Hey, Bill.
something else that I want to talk to you about that I'm taking personally and professional, and I would love for each of you to also join me in this endeavor, because I think it's important for us as a career. This Saving Saulnier, which is a house that's in Freedmanstown, that I've started this little campaign for. This is trying to save one house in Freedmanstown from demolition. This house was set to be demolished, and we managed to get it under contract, and we have a GoFundMe that I'm going to spend the next 60 days of my life promoting. And I'm going to promote it in a number of different ways. Freedmanstown is one of the foremost African-American settlements after they were freed. So Juneteenth comes around years after the Emancipation Proclamation to Galveston, and the announcement that these slaves who had been enslaved all their lives, they had never known anything other than slavery, now are free. And they congregate right in downtown Houston, and they help one another build a life, create a community. They build homes together. They build the streets. They didn't have indoor plumbing. And they did build bricks out of Buffalo Bayou for the brick-lined streets. And this sense of community created the first African-American wave of music, of fashion, of food, the first African-American dentist, the first African-American certified teacher, the first African-American doctor. They all lived in Freedmanstown for a very long period of time and created a very nice settlement. 40 city blocks of Freedmanstown were there, and a number of great historical structures. In 1981, there were 530 remaining structures when it became a National Registry place, historic designation. With the national designation, there is no real protection, okay? You can buy a National Trust house today and you can just tear it right on down. There's plenty of them throughout the center of the Heights or whatever that you could buy. Today, there are less than 50 houses left, and there are less than 30 of them on their original location. So the city has bought about the other 20, and we moved them to different locations and repurposed them, maybe pick one up and put it to Heritage Park, or we've moved them to the Gregory Library, or we've moved them to other city-owned property, but there's less than 30. And this is one that's set for demolition if we don't save it. And we've created a coalition, the Freedmanstown Conservancy, to help promote this area, because areas of historical significance need to be remembered for the culture in which they created different communities. This isn't the only culture. There's Latin American areas, there are affluent white areas. The Heights was a huge Italian and German immigrant area. Okay, that was really what it became first or whatever. And we don't want to forget that history also. But if we don't save these houses, and look, our industry is constantly accused of gentrification, profiting from the demolition of other houses. Look, I get it all the time. I am the profiteer of demolition. They label me all the time because I make a hell of a lot more money on 6 townhouses than I do one little house when we tear it down. So I think it's important for our industry, for realtors, for people who care about their communities, to save a part of history. And look, it's one house. Why does one house matter? Because if we let this one go, then we'll let the next one go, and we'll let the next one go. And if we don't try and tell the importance, so we have school kids writing essays on the importance of saving one house, on the importance of saving the history of Freedmanstown. Why does it matter today that we still remember the struggles that these people came through and overcame, and created the Barbara Jordans of the world that went on, to be a great congresswoman in U.S. House of Representatives and spoke up during Watergate representing that area, or the churches that are still there. So we're trying to save this house. And look, I already get tons of criticism from trying to save this house. I'm a rich white guy over here in an African-American neighborhood. What are you doing in my neighborhood? The house, when we save it, will be protected landmark through the city. It's in the contract, which means once it's city protected landmark, it could never be torn down again and will only be used for its entirety of life for affordable housing. So I'm trying to preserve a piece of history. I'm preserving the structure, and we're preserving it for affordable housing, which is a constant challenge for our industry also. We've raised $500,000, okay, which is a lot of money. We've started this little campaign and we're getting a fair amount of traction. And some people donate $10, some people donate $50, some people donate $100. I mean, if you had 5,000 people donate $100, you'd be there. 5,000 people out of a city of 3 and 4 million people. Freedmantown has donations from all over the world because of these freed slaves. There are people in Africa that want to support that, and people in Europe that want to support that, people that lived here and now are gone, and they still don't want to lose the history of Freedmantown. So I'm going to do a series of talks and promotions. We only have 60 days. If we don't raise this money by December 15th, and all the money that's donated through this cause, if we don't raise the $500,000, is being resent back. It's refunded back. 100% refundable if we don't reach our goal. So if you donate $200, we don't get our goal, you're going to get back to $200 or whatever, because I'm not keeping the money for another purpose. The purpose of this is to demonstrate the significance that one house does matter. One house in a neighborhood that has less and less historic houses in it matters. And if it doesn't matter, then they're just going to be torn down. And look, I could probably go to the Kinders and get $500,000. That's not the point. The point is to spread the message. The point is for Amanda to be able to tell people that she cares about gentrification. She cares about affordable housing. She cares about African-American history and all of the history of Houston. And that's what makes it so unique. And so I need your help in order to tell this story to your sphere and to your people. And I will help you tell the story. I don't expect you to get all this, although we have a very good website. We have a very good GoFundMe page. There's plenty of information about what's going on. But I think we have to all consider it to be an important endeavor. It can't just be me. What I want is 5,000 different donations. I want to prove to the world that we can gather together and rally together enough people to make a difference about something that people talk a lot about. They talk about the end of Acres Home. They talk about the gentrification of the 3rd Ward. They talk about the decline of the 4th Ward. Talk less and do something about it. The only way I know to do is to raise the money from the private sector and dedicate these houses for this purpose, to help tell the story of the deal. And the message about Freedmantown is really what you're spreading. And we have a very good website of why this is important. The city I have been working on for 6 years, instead of a historic district, which regulates private property, we've created a heritage district, which is the publicly owned property that you all own, the city-owned property, the streets, the sidewalks, the street lamps, the parks, the benches that are on publicly owned property. And we have a heritage district. Freedmantown was the first heritage district that protects the publicly owned property so that people just can't destroy the bricks. You buy a house in Freedmantown, you want a new water line, you just cut through our 160-year-old bricks, whatever. You can't do that anymore. You have to go through the conservancy to get permission. We hire an archaeologist to stand there and watch you to make sure that you don't destroy the 160-year-old bricks that were created from Buffalo Bayou, from freed slaves. It's the last bastion of these brick-lined streets that are intact from freed slaves. Yes, Jim?
What's the $500,000?
It purchases the house from the developers that set to demolish it.
Oh, so they put a price on.
That is the price they were willing to sell it to us in order not to demolish the house. There were already 2 houses on a 5,000 square foot lot. One of them has already been demolished. Our intention would be to buy another house or get another house and move it over to the property also, restore the houses, protect landmark them, and have them for affordable housing. $500,000. $1,600, $1,800. Now I put up the company put up $5,000 for the seed money. We donated all of our time or whatever. So I mean, we're really at about $7,000. The city of Houston has refurbished money from Harvey that will be used to restore the house. So I already had the money earmarked for the restoration.
Is there a history or story to the house?
There is, and I'm working on that today because the school children need this or whatever. I mean, it was in one of the, I mean, George Washington didn't sleep there or anything, but there is a history that was on the registry of the National Historic Registry of Places or whatever, and I just need to pull that up. They sent it to me yesterday. The history is that there were 530 of these structures and we're down to less than 30. It is now. I mean, I should show you you've never seen a worse shaped house in your life. There are trees growing out of it. There's old abandoned water heaters and the couches. I mean, you have to crawl over 6 and 8 feet or something, but it's a pretty good size. It's a pretty good floor plan. And it's a normal little just row house of things that easily could be restored into a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house that you would rent for what, they would make, 60 to 80% of the median income. It would be designated for something so that a teacher could afford to live there for $800 a month. The land will be in a land trust, so there'll be 0 taxes on the land, which helps preserve. The house won't have much value, so it will keep it affordable, but it'll be designated for affordable housing. Well, we will have a criteria that basically first come would be anyone with some historical tie to Freedmantown, okay? Now, I'm not saying you had to be African-American to live there because it's no longer only African-American, but so the first preference is someone with some tie. It could be that they work in this nearby school. They could work as a police officer in that area or whatever. So someone with but I mean, there's no set criteria other than we give preference to people with some relationship to Freedmantown or some location. We haven't decided that for sure. It could be sold, but if it were sold, it would have those same restrictions. So when you resell it, you must sell it to someone who only makes 60 to 80% of the median income. That means you can't make more than $30,000 a year or something when you go to resell it. And I got to be clear, these things are not, you wouldn't make a lot of money by owning it because you're limiting who can buy it. It won't be worth say $800,000 because the median income is still going to be $32,000. And so you can't make more than $32,000, which means what can you afford to pay? Take the land out. The house would probably sell for $100,000. The city would probably give them the down payment of $20,000. You would have a note for $80,000 or whatever. You wouldn't pay taxes on the land, just the house or whatever, so that your house payment could be $500. So you could afford to live in the neighborhood. You'll never own the land. The land will be owned by a trust so that A, we can control what happens, and B, it's the appreciation of the land. People won't be able to afford the house payment if the taxes on the land are $600,000 or $800,000. By the land being owned by the nonprofit, now the land's worth 0. And so you can afford to stay there.
So it sounds like it's going to be kind of a public-private.
It is a public-private partnership. The Conservancy we won't even close into our name. It'll be assigned over into the Community Land Trust. We're trying to decide, there's a lot of community land trusts. There's the Houston Land Bank, the county has a community land trust, there are private land trusts. We're just trying to figure out. The city is criticized because they own about 11 other buildings and they haven't done shit with these buildings in about 10 years. And the neighborhood do not want the city to just buy a building and let it sit there and be derelict. So that's why it is the private-public partnership, so that I can ensure that the work gets done, that there's a timeline to it, and that it would be restored within 12 months. And we would already do the protected landmark status immediately. That protects the house from anything in the future. So we have a plan to have it all done within a year. Yep. The land trust. The land trust. We probably have today. Houston is behind the game. Remember, half of Martha's Vineyard is in a land trust. Half of Hudson Valley is in a land trust. I was in Maine. 60% of the land in Maine is owned by a land trust. Okay, but they've been at it for 100 years. I mean, they get huge things that were, half of Yosemite was a land trust that then the government acquired or whatever. So I mean, you play defense by doing the land trust. But we have about 200 houses that are in a land trust so far in the city of Houston. About 4 different land trusts that are out there that manage these things and make them. housing and community development in the city of Houston. I mean, we have a community land trust, the city of Houston Community Land Trust. There's a board of directors, there's an executive director, they're funded by the city. And then there's the Houston Land Bank, same thing. They do the same thing. The land bank's primary objective is to acquire land. They usually take land that has title issues or demolition liens. We foreclose on that property into the land trust, and they put that land up for affordable housing also. And then same thing, they put the lot up for zero. Holly builds a house on it. We sell it for same thing, $145,000, lands in the land trust. We give you 20% down payment so that you can get a family of 4 in there for $900 a month. Yep. Well, we have, of course, there's, I mean, the mayor's from Acres Home, so we have a large swath of them the last 5 or 6 years that are in the land trust, sure. They don't own the land. That's right. Instead of you being a tenant and the rent going from 700 to 900 to 1200 over the course of 3 years, it provides stability for people. There can be modest appreciation. I don't want to say because, but it would be if the median income was 32,000 to be worth something. If it were 42,000 to be worth something. In 10 years, maybe that's 62,000. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, hopefully it goes up, but it does. You're not really owning it for. Well, for the community land trust, that's how most of them are. There are some rental houses, and then there are some purchase houses. They list them on the land trust houses are on, you know, HAR or whatever, but it's the same thing. They're on there for 120,000. You can't make more than 32,000 for single, 42,000 for a family of 4, sort of thing. They're limited. Well, because the person has to qualify, you know, it can't go to $400,000 because the person in the affordable housing can't, you know, can't possibly make that much money. That's right. You're right. They didn't qualify for the program, right? So I'm excited, you know. So we already had a little banner. They already stole my banners or whatever. Like there's a lot of haters out there, but I'm going to get a little more direct. We used to be more gentle about it, but I mean, the banners this week going up. I can't save the world, but I can save this one house. Help us save 1609 Saulnier from demolition. I mean, that's what the banner said. And you just go to the, you know, you just go to this website and you can donate. This house will be demolished if we don't save it. That's what the banner is going to say. I mean, it's just going to be just point blank about it that we do it. And does one house matter? Help us save this home and its history. You know, yes. There are you should ask Thomas and I have 100 emails and texts from people. There are people that don't like change, and they are they say they do. That's right. Absolutely, it would. I'll share some of my comments from. They don't like outside people coming into their neighborhood trying to save them. They have heard this before and been disappointed before, and they don't want to be priced out of their neighborhood. I think some of them have a little mental illness going on, but I mean, yeah, they're just. The alternative is the house being demolished. It's a simple deal. It's not like the developers who are in this for money, we're going to just give it away or whatever. So yeah, yeah, I guess. And we can get tours if someone were interested. I'll be doing some videos from in front of the house or whatever. It's 1609 Saulnier. It looks like a typical little row house that's been in bad condition for 30 years. But I think there's a great story for us all here to do something to address, you know, African-American history is a high priority for a lot of the world at the moment. You know, gentrification and displacement, affordable housing, preservation of history and preservation of culture, promotion of the culture. There's a lot of good opportunities here for us to do a really good thing, to demonstrate that it can be done, because this model we want to use in other places to do these sort of things. I'm happy to save the Astrodome. You know who's not going to save the Astrodome? Harris County. They are not going to put one tax dollar to saving the Astrodome. If you want to save the Astrodome, you know who gets to do it? The private sector, a hotel developer, a casino, apartment complex, whatever it's going to be, it's going to have to raise money. And the county spends about $10 million a year to maintain this facility that they would rather put into roads and bridges, homeless people, mental health, and public health. They're not going to spend the money on the Astrodome today. There's not enough money to do that. So we can save the Astrodome. It's just going to be you and me saving the Astrodome. It isn't going to be any politician, because it's not. The public does not want their money spent on saving the Astrodome. The public doesn't want to save this house. I mean, the government has no money to save this house. It has to be important to private citizens. If it's not important to private citizens, it's sure as hell not going to be important to the government or whatever. So this is a way to demonstrate how we can save certain things. And by earmarking it affordable and protecting landmarking, you're doing a couple of different things. Look, all around this house are brand new construction. There's brand new apartment complexes. And look, for some people, we have these little kids that come by, they don't know the history of these little houses. They don't know the history of the people. This thing at Top Chef at Bethel, no one knew anything. 99% of the people out there did not know anything about Freedmanstown. They just didn't know anything about it. And if you can get people there and you can show them the narrow streets, the brick lined streets, the typical architecture of the time and how they were built, I think some people want that. And they want to be a part of that history. So.
Some of the behavior we see that, for one thing, the people that have been, that have gentrified,
we don't get a lot of resistance from rich white people who moved into Freedmanstown. That isn't our resistance.
And the poor people who their taxes are going to go up.
I definitely get that one all the time. If you pay $500,000 and that means the next one's going to be worth $500,000, which means now you price me out of my neighborhood. I get that argument. You know what I want to do? Pay nothing for it, or the least amount that I could. It's not that we didn't try to pay 280 or 300,000 or 400,000, but look, these things are long gone. Once someone's bought it and they've developed their townhouses, and look, this house is not worth $500,000. It's not. But that guy who owns it is not going to not make the profit that he would have made out of those townhouses, or he's not going to sell it to us. You know what he's going to do? Tear it down and build the townhouses. This is the only way that I can save this one, is in order to pay them their profit so that we can save this house and earmark it for affordable housing. I don't want to pay $500,000 for it, but if I want to save this house on my watch, this is what I have to do. So what else you want to talk about today? Questions, comments? Yep.
Third-party financing.
Mm-hmm.
Regards to appraisal, if it's going to fall outside of their allotted time frame, they don't get another amendment.
No. It's covered in the third-party financing addendum. It makes it clear that there's buyer approval has a certain amount of days, but the property approval has no days. There's no number in there. If you use the third-party addendum and it doesn't appraise the day before closing, it can't get insurance the day before closing. The lender finds some problem with the house the day before closing. That's what that protects the buyer from, the inability to get a loan on a house due to something about the house. That's so buyer approval, buyer needs to go get approval before they even look for a house. They don't need any number of days, really. I mean, if you have some long close, I suppose, but I think most agents don't understand the difference between the two paragraphs. Buyer should go get approved. Buyer can get approved subject to the house, subject to appraisal, subject to financing, subject to insurance, subject to the flood map, subject to any number of different things. Those dates have nothing to do with that in the third-party financing addendum. The only time that wouldn't apply is if you just didn't use the third-party financing addendum or use the addendum that waives the appraisal. Good question. And yeah, this not filling out all these blanks leaves it open. It's in a way that agent over there trying to participate. It is legally unclear what it means when you put NA on the number of years or the interest rate or the closing cost. Don't let people put in a number. There's a blank there for a reason. They promulgated it for a reason, and you have to be able to determine whether or not that is reasonable or not. NA is not a reasonable answer to the amount of the closing cost. So what does that mean? If it doesn't mean anything. So you need.
Basically, you kind of say the buyer doesn't really give a flying flip, like what the interest rate would be for this house, they're still gonna buy that.
But that's not exactly what that says. That's, I understand, but the courts haven't determined that. They didn't say that. They said they had the chance and they didn't fill it out, so it still gives them the chance to negotiate these things later. And why would we want them to have a chance to negotiate later? Let's just put in a number, so then it's definitable and it can say it either meets this or it doesn't meet that. This is in third-party financing addenda where it has, 30 years at 4% for how many years and what closing costs. And a number of you are just putting NA or nothing in the next two boxes, okay? But by putting nothing or putting NA, it's leaving it up to limbo, which it shouldn't be in limbo, what that really means. If it doesn't mean the buyer's waiving their right to those things. If so, they should just waive the whole, don't use the third-party financing addendum. But you can't use it halfway. And so they have to put something in those blanks. NA is not an acceptable answer for those blanks if you're going to use the form. Otherwise, don't use the form. It can get a little confusing, but we've had a number of these instances the last week or two. And I think sometimes the buyer's agent's thinking they're making it more attractive to the listing, but it's not. It's confusing the deal. It's leaving it up to conflict. So if you don't want it subject to that, don't use the form. That was your option. Check not to make it subject to third-party financing. But if you're going to use the form, you can't use half the form. You have to use the whole form. You have to fill it out. NA is not an appropriate answer. What else? Questions are good. No. I like being in person. These are good. This is why we want to meet in person. Yep. We've all been there. Right. Yep. Yep.
So we get basically the transaction, I'm following up regularly to try to get stuff out of this person every time, brings an order, to take a call, where are we? And he's telling me yes, everything's on track, brings an order, okay?
Never believe the agent. Never believe an agent, first of all, but okay. Okay.
And I'll be taking care of this transaction. So my question is, who is getting paid on this?
The broker. The broker is, and let the broker figure out who's getting paid. I mean, that's the broker's always getting paid. So it doesn't really matter if the agent's lapsed in the interim. If the broker, well, they can hold that money in some escrow and let them reactivate their license, whatever their agreement is. It's not like we've never done the same thing. If someone's license lapsed, we'll just finish the transaction for them. Their intention is to get their license back active. I just hold the money, and once they're back active, I just can't distribute the money without their license being active. So they'll probably just hold it in escrow somewhere, wherever they are, Keller Williams or something. But now that person, so when that person contacts you back, you have to say, remember, I can't communicate with you because you're illegally participating in license. That's just a sheer, and an experienced agent not knowing really how the rules work. Yeah, you don't really have much of a choice. Okay, yes, the summary was that we started a transaction with an agent whose license lapsed. Doesn't matter if they were new or not new, but if their license lapses, you're then co-oping with the broker. The broker wants to assign it to someone, they can assign it to whoever they want, and they might assign it to some transaction coordinator, but you got to go back to the broker and say, I noticed John Smith's license is now inactive. Who is it in your firm that you wish me to continue? Because you really entered into the transaction with the broker. and just whatever the broker decides, that's perfectly fine. Same thing with these agents while we're on the same topic. If an agent says, I'm going to give, you know, $1,000 of my commission to the buyer or whatever, all that, you know, it's not uncommon in our industry. We just have to have something from the broker because that's the broker's money. It's not the agent's money. So if the agent wants to apply that money, reduce the whatever they want to do, perfectly fine. We just need a letter from the broker that authorizes that transaction. Same as if you go to buy a house and you buy a house and you want to apply your commission to something, it's perfectly fine, but you still need my permission to go apply your closing, you know, your commission to the closing cost or for your brother or sister or whatever. Yeah, I mean, usually it's an email from the broker to Sandra or I that says, I understand my agent, John Smith, is going to use $4,000 of the commission to pay the buyer's closing costs, and that's fine.
So in the event, like I pay for savings from time to time, and I pay for that at the closing table, so credit back, I guess I have not done that properly, I probably need to get.
If you're using your money to do that, you just use your money to do that, and you tell Sandra that, then that works fine for our firm. It's the other agents that want to do something that I need something from because they don't have the, you know, for me, I'm giving you permission. You can spend your money any way you want. I don't really care where it goes. You can give it to Habitat for Humanity, or you can give it to Saving Saulnier if you want to. I don't really care. Your portion, because you can't give away my portion without my permission, whatever. But if it's another agent doing something, we need something that says what they're doing over here. It's not uncommon for someone, I'm representing my sister and I want to just reduce the sales price by 3% or what, 70% or 3% or something. I just have to have the permission of the broker to do that. What else do you want to talk about today? Jim? We do. Introduce yourself. Yes. That's what Rhonda's for.
And if you guys don't know Ken Saltzman, she and I are working together. And then I have another girl, Brianna, that works for that.
That's great. Kim, are we having a closing today, or did you have a closing yesterday, or?
The closing is being moved because we changed buyers.
Okay. Okay, those things happen. You need help with that, let us know. Anything else going on? Yes, Dave? Reload companies, a lot of reload companies out there.
Any ones that we don't work with, or we need to have a group first?
No, I mean, the typical relocation company today, if you're representing this, you know, a seller, they want 42.5%. I mean, that is the typical referral fee for a large company. And so you need to think through, do you really want to go through all that hell for next to no money? But some people do, and if you're willing to do so, we try and negotiate that as much as we can. But I mean, the bigger they are, the less negotiable they are, and the larger that fee has become. It gets confusing, and then so many of them, the larger ones especially, you know, they want everything goes into your name. You're going to put the utilities in your name, which usually I have to put them in my name, which is fine. Not like we don't do it from time to time, but I mean, we always get screwed a little bit because they need the invoice at the day of closing. Well, I don't know what the electric bill was. I don't know what the gas bill was. I don't know what the water bill is, because you can't turn it off and get that number right that second or whatever. So I always end up eating. And they don't let us just kind of estimate. They don't like that sort of thing. So we always eat some cost when I'm giving up 42.5%. We don't do a lot of them. But some are easier than others. But there's none that I would say, no, we're blacklisted against using them from, because we are sometimes forced to do it. And some houses, we generally look at how fast do we think we can sell them. A lot of times, do the same thing. They're going to give the buyer 30 days to sell, or 60 days before they either buy it. They're not buying a lot of these houses like they used to 10 years ago. They're not in that market much anymore. They don't want to get stuck with these houses, which leads us back to the Zillow conversation in a second. But yeah, I'm very familiar with having to deal with them. You did, Zillow stopped buying their houses, which I mean, I think is just an interesting deal. I think it goes back to what we've been talking about for months, and I'm certainly well abreast of it. It's the supply chain. Their model works a little bit if you can buy it and sell it quickly. It doesn't work so well if you have to buy it, and then paint it, put in the countertops and the tile and same thing. They're waiting for the same countertop and tile that we are, or the sink or the faucet or any of those sort of things. So that's their excuse for not buying it. I'm not sure that that's the only excuse, but it's a pretty good one. I mean, I get it. But it's the efficiency of their model not working. And same thing, we've talked about this. Zillow loses about 60 grand on every house that they buy. When you really run the numbers, how many do you want them to buy? The model doesn't work. If it worked, the Zillow stock in the best real estate market in the history of mankind would not be off 31% from a year ago. Okay, your stock would not be down if what you're doing well. You know whose stock is up? Realogy and Coldwell Banker and Keller Williams. You know whose stock is down? Compass, Zillow, Redfin, Purple Brick, all these sort of models that they're not sustainable. You cannot lose billions of dollars and expect that Goldman Sachs can't figure that out, because these are large institutional groups that are deciding the values of these stocks. It isn't Tiffany deciding what it's worth. It's Merrill Lynch deciding what it's worth. And they can analyze the shit just as easy as the rest of us can. And if you lose $60,000 houses and you bought 8,500 of them a quarter, run the numbers there. And that model just isn't working. Plus, I did think in the comments, if Martha bought a house for 10% less than the value, and she spent a few dollars on it and then sold it for 25% more, Martha's license would be taken away from her by the Department of Justice and the National Association of Realtors, because we would all consider that to be unethical. You use your knowledge to price a house and you sold it for significantly more. You know what that is? It's called screw the buyer, screw the seller. And I think at some point that model, these iBuyers are going to get in trouble because it's unethical, and their primary objective as the real estate agent is the fiduciary responsibility of their client. And you know what they're not looking after? The fiduciary responsibility of their client. They're looking after their bottom line. I think it's unethical, which would lead us back to our ethics conversation. Yes, Jim?
Okay, so I'm still trying to figure out, how do these people get the money from, whoever investor they're getting from, and the investor doesn't recognize the fact.
No, they're lost leaders. This is Walmart did this to every country, every city in small town America. You come in, you put everyone out of business. You're the last guy standing in Roans Prairie and Caldwell, Texas, and Gonzales, Texas, and Huntsville, Texas. Your downtown went to shit, but chap, market share. Uber has never made a dime. You know what they've done? Eliminate most taxi cabs from New York City because the taxi cabs can't make any money. And so they commit suicide for all the money that they now owe on their little shit that they got to be in the cab business. But it's designed to make market share. Amazon lost money for 20 years. They lost money before. What they can do now is put everyone else out of business. And so they'll make it up in the end. They lose $1.2 billion, $1.3 billion, $1.4 billion in order to make $5 billion later. And you can, if it works, it can work. Compass's goal is to put me out of business. Zillow's goal is to put me out of business. Let's just be real clear. The only way their model works is if we all go to work for Zillow or for Compass, and then they won't have to compete as much. They won't have to pay people as much. They won't have to do all that concierge stuff. And they have then enough market share, and they put everyone else out of business so that it works. Walmart pharmacy puts out small town pharmacists. Amazon puts out of business a bookseller because you care more about convenience than you do about price. And it's easier for me to order a book at 9 p.m. at night than it is to go drive to Brazos bookstore, know that they don't have it, order it, wait for it to come in 6 days later, drive back to Brazos bookstore and pick up the book. You know what you do? You go to Amazon. You know what that does? Put out Brazos bookstore. It's easy to see. If you want Brazos bookstore, you want Buchanan's, you want C&D hardware, you want an independent clothing store, you're going to have to go and have a little bit of inconvenience and pay a little bit more. Or you know what? All you're going to be able to shop on is Amazon. And we love the convenience. That's what they're doing. Uber is convenient. You know what it is? Not cost effective. They subsidize every ride you've ever had by at least $20. Every Uber drive you make costs the company more than they broke in. They've never broken even.
We've got a question from Wendy, but you might need to ask her directly.
I haven't heard anyone in these little ear pod things today. I don't want to be anti-corporate world, but I'm just saying it is a very global world. I was at a real estate deal the other day. Energy is not determined by any of us anymore. The ups and downs of oil and gas used to be about how much Nicholas drove or something like. You know who impacted today? Chinese, India, Russia. That's determining the value of oil in our society. So they're not likely to bust unless Russia goes to a bust or whatever. You know who's using all the oil? Cargo ships. You know what there are? A lot of cargo ships. I mean, so the dynamics of the whole economy have shifted rapidly in the last 10 years or something. I mean, it's just totally different. You just have to be aware of it. I am nervous of little, small, independent places because are we willing to pay more or wait? It's the convenience. Everything is about convenience. That's what we want today. I think it's less about price. It's just we want it now. We're now. Got to have it right this second. What was Wendy's question?
So, can you hear me?
Okay, well, all righty. Well,
Me? Hello? Hello?
what else you want to talk
Bill?
about? And I mentioned it because of this globalization. I mean, I think it's impacting. It goes back to the consumer wants it now. If you get a call to list your house and you don't talk to them within about an hour, you know what they did? They picked up the phone and called someone else. There isn't as much loyalty as you think there is. You got to still work at it or whatever. But I mean, I think you've got to find a way to respond quickly and respond to them. Once you get them, I mean, I think they're well. I try and tell my clients, look, I'm not available on Tuesdays and Thursdays from about 9 to about 1. I mean, I'm available 7 days a week, about 65 hours a week, but this one particular time, I really can't focus on anything other than the development of my agents. And so if I communicate that well, then they get it and it's fine. But I think people are, I think got to continue to work on relationships. I think that's what really matters. And I'm willing to go and pay significantly more at M-Penner for a suit than I could get it at J. Crew. I'm willing to pay significantly more. I was with Dan Linscomb yesterday at Cool Linscomb. I basically shopped at Cool Linscomb and paid 10 times more than I would. I had never been to Bed Bath & Beyond. I've never walked into Walmart. I'm sure it's much cheaper there. I don't want to buy cheap ass shit from IKEA. I don't want any of it. I tell my kids, you know, we're doing this lake house and they bought some little bar cart thing for the outdoor. It lasted about 15 days. Quit buying cheap plastic crap and buy 1950s solid wood made in America sort of things. They cost more, but they are worth more. They last longer. They cost more in the beginning, but last longer. That's right. I mean, try and, you know, I just think we need, as a consumer, we've got to figure out, it's like cars. We want a new car every 4 years, so we don't mind that we buy it. They're plastic. The outside's plastic. It's not metal anymore. It's plastic, which is lighter, which I guess is more fuel efficient or whatever, but it's just a different mindset than it was before. We got to go back and find some way to pay for quality and sell quality versus cheap.
All right, I got it for you.
All righty.
Your listing says to use one for condo. Pretty sure I should be using condo.
If it's a condo, if on the legal description in HCAD, it is an interest. So 1/16th interest or 0.0682% interest, then you're forced to use the deal. If it's a lot and block on the legal description is how you would determine that, then you can determine what contract you're going to use. If it's lot and block, you're going to use the 1 to 4. If it is an interest, then, and that's you'll know by the legal description. Yeah, any of us can look it up on HCAD. Okie dokie, anything else? We bought lunch again today. Yes, go ahead.
Holiday gifts, are you?
Holiday gifts. I am. I'm going to provide the same thing we did last. I'm going to provide a gratitude gift that we're able to give to our clients. We'll have to do the same thing. Selena's not here. She had jury duty, but I'm not doing it for your 700 clients. I'm doing it for your clients that bought or sold in 2020. And I'll make available the others for you to buy. Whatever year we're in, what year are we in? these years are blurry to me or whatever. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out the right message or whatever, or something, you know, similar to what we had. We'll do a card for sure. We always are going to do the card. And then we're going to come up with something that we can promote, something local like we did with the candle. Yep, going to have that. I think that's really more important than a Christmas gift at the moment, just showing our gratitude. And I'm going to help you with that. I'm gonna have it by Thanksgiving, and we're gonna have it by Thanksgiving, and then you can send it anytime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I don't think you have to. We're getting a gratitude gift that you can give to your clients of something that we're promoting locally or whatever, similar to how we did the candle thing last year. The candle was a hit. Candle was a great hit. That was $30,000 for the candle. But we're going to do, and for those of you that weren't here, it was just, we just had a little gratitude card and we had a little candle made and we dropped them off to our clients or whatever. And I think they were very, very appreciative. But yeah, we're,
They actually volunteered to make that.
oh, good. It took me like forever to make that jam. Okay.
First lady didn't know they're going, so guys, they just, oh, yeah, I know, we can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, gratitude.
Yeah. I didn't want to smell like every other candle, so we went through like 50 different scents or whatever to get something that's not too florally and not too manly, but somewhere in between. It was good. What else we got? No other questions, comments? Okay, all right. Thank you very much for being here. I'll be around most of the day if anyone needs anything. Thomas, great job again. Hey, Thomas. I did not hear a thing in my ear things today.
Can you hear me now, Bill? Bill?